In this video, I'm going to show you how to put together this model of ATP synthase. And on the back, you can see what it really looks like. It's kind of a tangled mess of proteins. You can see a lot of alpha helix shapes. These curly things are alpha helices. So the amino acid chain curls up to make these helix shapes, and then it folds together to make, this is called the F1 subunit. This is the rotor shaft. This is the FO subunit up here. And this thing is called the stator, and it keeps it stationary. It keeps this part anchored to the membrane. The first thing we're going to put together is the F1 subunit. So you'll need this piece right here. And the first thing you want to do is sort of bend it a little bit and curl it with your fingers. If you just kind of stroke it like that, it reminds me of curling ribbon, except that with ribbon you use scissors. Here you can just use your fingers and just kind of go like that. See, and it just curls it nicely. Okay, so when we get all those curled over, then we're going to fold it around like this and use this tab. Right here, we're going to glue it into a circle. And a little note about glue. I recommend either PVA glue, I get this from Amazon UK, or Elmer's Craft Bond, something really, really heavy duty made for adult crafting. Or you can try this. Elmer's has a glue stick Craft Bond, but make sure this is like extra strength, not school glue, not the regular kind. It has to be the extra strength. So for this one, we'll just dab it. We'll try this Elmer's Craft Bond glue here. Pull it over. And then if your glue is good, this is kind of the test for good glue. Because good glue, you can hold it, count to 10, and when you let go, the joint will hold. It'll probably need a little bit longer to sit and dry, but it will basically hold. So we'll see here. Okay. Now we need this piece, and we need to score on these dotted lines. I'm going to use my X-Acto knife. You can use the back side of it or the front side if you're very careful. You just very, very gently, let me zoom in a little bit. So when you score, you want to just barely scratch the surface. Now these lines are pretty short, so I don't really need a ruler. For longer lines, I would use a ruler. So if you've done it right, when you fold it, it should just snap right like that. Just perfect. It should make a perfect fold. Very, very easily. No fighting with the paper. And then we'll try this again. Okay. Pinch and hold. And then on this unit, we need to fold down the X tabs like this. And I found that they don't really need to be scored. This is about the one thing in the model that doesn't need to be scored, just because of the shape that they're cut. It just sort of, they naturally fold right there. And if you want to, you can fold these on the other side too, or you can do it later. But they're all going to be folded down. Okay, so make sure we're working with the ones that have the X on them. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this hexagon inside. Now I'm going to switch to a different glue. Let's try this one. Now, I found that it works best if we do two opposite sides like this. So we're going to stick one here. Try to make sure you can see this. Make sure it's lined up like that. And I'm going to hold it. You can also cheat a little bit. You can use a clothespin or a paper clip to hold it like that for you once you get it in place. And let's see the other one, the other side. This is the trickiest part of the project, gluing these hexagonal rings. Okay, I'm going to hold. Count to 10. See if my glue sticks. And then maybe I'll switch off to here again. And let this be a third or fourth hand for me. Now I'm going to set this aside to dry for just a minute. I'll come back and do those others, but I think I'll get started on the next piece while I'm waiting for that to dry. So next up is this piece. And you actually don't have to score along here. This is not really going to be folded. You can score a little right here along these. This is going to be rolled, so you got to be kind of patient with this. You don't want to have big creases in it. You want it to be nice and round. So if you kind of just work with it, you can even kind of go like this, like you did the other one, and roll. If you have a magic marker or something larger than a pencil, it might help. You can roll it around that too. Do something like this. Can help. I like to over-roll just a little bit, so you make it a little bit smaller. And then, okay, so now before you put any glue on, what you need to do is get about 4 pieces of tape. I'm going to use masking tape, which is not very sticky. For once, you need tape that isn't very sticky. Usually we complain because tape isn't sticky enough, but here you want some pieces of tape that are not very sticky because you're going to pull them off. These are just going to hold your project. So I'll have these ready to go and stand by off camera here. And let's see, maybe I'll try this glue again. And I'm going to take my finger and spread it. Try not to get it above the dotted line, but exactly up to it. Like that. And then make sure you have something to wipe your finger on off camera so you don't get glue onto the other part. Okay, and I got my tape ready. And bend it over, hold it like that. Try to make sure you get it right on the line. I think I got it a little bit too, it was a little aggressive. You want it right to that dotted line, not over and not under. Because the size of the shaft is very important to fit down into your little hexagon ring. Okay, now take something, slide it in the end so that you can press. You can press against this marker here. Press the joints real well. There we go. Let's see if my expo marker works. That will work as well. A little bit of patience will really pay off. Okay, and then I'm going to let that dry off camera. Let's go back and look at this. Let's see if these have dried enough. You can also put your finger up inside and press the seam like that. Okay, and you don't want it sticking. You want it to open up like that. You see how it's got a little gap in there. You don't want it to stick flat. You want it to kind of puff out round like that. Okay, let's do another one. Just enough. You don't want too much glue. You don't want it oozing out. Okay, so put it right like that. I'm going to press and hold. Sometimes I even like to put the glue on and let it sit for a minute and get sticky. So that has glue on it, but I can even let it sit while I'm holding this, and it'll dry just a little bit. I mean, not too much, but it'll get nice and sticky. Sometimes that's a help. Okay. Watch your first joints and make sure they don't pop open. So far so good. I think we're okay. Put that on. That one looks pretty good. Okay. Let's work on this piece for a minute and I'll finish those other joints. I'm going to score along here. Actually, this one is long enough. You might find it easier to put a straight edge along it. Just very, very lightly. You don't want to cut it. Just scratch the surface. Take your time lining it up really well. Just like that. And this one's so short, I'm just going to like that. Okay. So then we can do our curving trip like this with the fingers. Curve it around. Let's do this glue this time. Use some. It's working pretty well for this type of flap here. Okay. Press and hold. In fact, I could even take the clips off this. Okay, let's finish this one up. Whoop, that's a little bit too much. You don't want very much, just a little tiny bit. With really good glue, you don't need very much. A little covering. Whoops. Okay, line it up. Make sure that's lined up nice and straight right there. Pinch, hold. Last one. I think I'll go up under here. Stick my finger up and go like that. Press it in. Alright, let's check in on this guy. See how we're doing. That's holding pretty well. Okay, now we're ready to fold down these tabs, and because we scored, these should just go down really, really easily. No fighting with the cardstock. Goes right down. And then you'll need those green circles on the top. Okay. So these are going to go on either end. This one is the top. So the letter C will be at the bottom. This one is going to go up here. And right underneath the C, we're going to have that one. Now I recommend doing this one first, and you'll see why in a minute. Now a little trick is also to make sure the tabs are up just a little bit, you see that? So that when I press down, it'll make contact. If the tabs are all folded in like this, it'll be a little bit harder. So leave them up just a little bit like that. Dab them with a little glue. Just a dab will do it. And set this one on. And then I'm going to press a little bit this way, and then I'm going to check this way. I can kind of see if it's peeking out down here. And then I'm going to use my finger to press down on the seam when I get it in place. When I think it's in place, sometimes you got to do a little bit, turning it over and again, and turning it over again. Just fuss with it a little bit. Don't get discouraged if it slips around a little bit. Just keep working with it. And you can always trim off a little bit. Try to get it so that there's not very much white showing. You don't really want white around the edges there. Try to tuck those in. But you can always trim off the green, this circle. There we go. Alright, I'm going to go press around. Okay, let's do the other side. And you'll see why we did this side first, because when we put this on, I can still get my finger down through there to press. If I had done it in the reverse order, I'd be stuck. I can still get my finger in there. I find the liquid glue a little bit easier than the glue stick for this kind of thing. But you can probably still use glue stick if you need to. Okay. Now also, let's make sure that these circles line up. You see, this is supposed to look like a cylinder. So make sure that the circles look like they're sitting on top of a cylinder if you can. Press and hold, and then we'll turn it over and press the seam. Alright, let's let that rest. So let's finish up this guy. We need this piece for the bottom, and you need to cut these right here. These are cut, so it's going to, like that, make individual tabs. But it will be helpful if you score very lightly along here, and then score a little bit on the dotted lines. And then we're going to fold these back like this. Oh, there we go. And then fold this in like this so the word glue is on the inside. The dotted lines are on the inside on this one. And that's because I'm going to use it like this. This is going to show. So I didn't want the little black edges to show. So this will just be white against white. This will go right against the floor of my model. So I did it that way. So put a little glue on the glue tab. Press and hold. So for this hexagonal ring, it's going to go in like this. And these are going to stick out like the petals of a flower. So I'm going to take two opposite sides there. Alright, I'm going to set that aside for a minute. I'll tell you what is coming up next. We're going to do this piece. And first you need to take a knife and you cut out these two little rectangles here. Always remember to use something behind so you don't cut onto your surface. And then we will need a little bit of scoring on this piece. There. On these lines here, I'll show you where to score. So let's see, this one. And this one down here, right below the words glue. And that one, here, here, and this one, and then also on the edges of these triangles. And then lastly, the line along the bottom. Now these are going to be cut right here, so I need to score that. This one along the bottom here. And then make sure, yeah, it's snipped right there. Just snip here and snip there. And then these lines should just fold right over. Look how easy that is. It always seems like it takes so much time to score, but you save a lot of time folding. Look at that. Alright, I'm going to use the glue stick for this. Let's rub some glue there. And then you want to make a perfect rectangle on the end here. I'm not doing that very well. Something like that. Whoops. Right about there. You want as much space here as down here. I'm going to do it flat and then show you. There. So it's a nice rectangle. Okay, and do the other side. Okay, and then fold these in, like so. And then fold the bottom flaps up. And you're going to pull them in like that. And it doesn't matter whether you put the glue here or here, just somewhere in the corner. I'll try some of this Elmer's Craft Bond. It doesn't matter whether it goes on the bottom or the edges, either way. Like that. And then pull the corner in. I'll show you in a minute. It's there, like that. Whoops. Hold that. Set that aside. Now you need your floor and the piece of cardboard to go under it. And you want to glue this piece onto the cardboard. We'll try glue stick. This will be the ultimate test for this glue stick. There we go. Sometimes glue stick is good if you're doing something large and you don't want it to wrinkle. So I don't want like little glue wrinkles. You know how glue sometimes wrinkles paper. but the glue stick won't cause wrinkles. Get it right on there like that. And then also the tricky thing is you don't want to get glue from your fingers onto here. Sometimes I've gone like that and I'm rubbing it and it starts to turn gray because of the glue on my fingers. I see I have a little bit there I need to trim off. Alright, and then this will go right here like that. Just going to glue that down. I'm really switching up on the glues here. Now you won't see this for a second. I'm going to press, hold like that. Okay. And then I'll set that aside. Let's finish this thing up. You should be ready. Here we go. Now let's check in on this thing. We should be ready to take these off. Peel nice and slowly. Okay, we can fold these under, except I do want to leave them out a little bit, like I did with the others, so that when I press down I can be sure of contact. Try to make sure it's nice and straight. Okay. And then if you have any paper sticking out like that, if it's bothering you, you can always just kind of trim it off a little bit. Like that. Alright, so that is done and ready to go into the final model. Let's work on this piece next. We need to score down here on these lines. You can use a ruler. I'm just going to wing it. I'm usually pretty steady with this stuff, so I'm going to use a ruler. And then also score down here along these tabs, so they'll fold right over. And then a little bit right here and right here. You actually don't need to score this in the middle, but if you do, it won't hurt anything. Okay, so we're going to fold like that, fold like this, making like a trough, and then on the ends, bend these down, and then this is just going to roll over and glue like that. And then snip right here, snip right here. Make sure that they're snipped. Forgot to say that before. Okay. And then that piece was ready to go. Set that aside. Let's see if we can finish this one up. See how these are holding. I can still stick my finger in the end to kind of, if your finger's long enough, to press the seam inside there. Okay, let's do the last two. Okay, so that piece is ready. Now we have one last piece to assemble. This is the bottom of this stator piece. So we want to score along the tabs. You can use a ruler, little short lines I don't bother with. Oops, there. And I'm going to do that one. That one. Okay, bend the tabs down. Okay, which glue to use? Maybe I'll go back and use my PVA. Just a little bit. Sometimes I get too much on one, I just go like that and I wipe it on the other one. Okay. Go like that. And, oops, press and hold. Just be patient. Hold it and count to 10. And it doesn't matter that that's kind of got a gap down there. You're not going to see that. It's going to tuck under the model, so that's not going to show. A little less, and you can just curl that up a little bit. Too small to glue. All right. Do the other side. Go back over here, check these seams. Okay, that piece is ready. So let's go ahead and join this piece and this piece. And all you need to do is put a little glue on these tabs and then a little bit on this back. Oop, that's a little bit too much. Just a little bit. Okay, and that's going to go like this. Oops. See that? So those two pieces are going to go, the two little wings are going to go out like that. That piece is just going to stick down the back like that. Now let's put this piece on the base. This should be ready. This piece is going to go like this. So this hexagon is going to match up with this, but you see how I have alpha beta marked here. So choose one of the betas to go right on the side like this. So when you're looking down at it, it's going to look like that with this beta on this side. So we're going to have blue over here and orange over there. So be semi-generous with this. You do want enough, but you don't want it oozing out all over the bottom, but you do want it to stick. Okay. And then it'll probably be helpful if you use a pair of scissors to help push down the flaps here. Alright, so my beta is going to go right there. You try to get it right on top of that hexagon. Okay, and then I can get my fingers in here. Sure enough, I can get my fingers in here to press on these, but the ones in the back might be a little bit difficult, but you can always Kind of reach a scissor in like that and press like that. Okay. And it should look like it's embedded in the membrane. This green cylinder sits right there in the membrane. So now before we put the stator on, let's put our little ATP and ADP strips on. So use your little bending technique again. Go like that. Oops, the other way. Now let's do the ADP first. Make sure you get it in the right slot. I'm going to do ADP plus inorganic phosphate. So I want to curl this end nicely. Real nice and curly because it's going to go in through here and then out through right over here. And there it comes. It's actually fairly easy to do. And then you're going to stick it through that rectangle hole there, the little window. And then you're going to join the ends of the strip like that. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Make it nice and curly. Slide this through. Comes right through there. Push it through that little window. And put it in place. Now we have to do is put the stator on. I'm going to tip it up for this. So you need glue on these tabs now. I'm going to be sort of generous about this because they used to stick pretty well. And then I'm going to slide that right on like that. It glues to the blue beta unit. That's how it looks from the side. Just put it right on. And then you can put a tiny bit of glue on the back of the stator there and stick it to the bilayer. That'll help hold it in place also. But don't glue the cylinder here to this layer, and don't glue these two together because this has to rotate. And I took this out for a minute. This was giving me trouble, so I took it out for a minute and I clipped it like that. And then I'll just put the rotor back in when it's dry. And then you're ready to make some ATPs. You want to put phosphate and ADP in. And then protons from up here are going to go down through here, circulate around, right around here, and then come out there. And the protons are going to cause it to turn 120 degrees clockwise. And then the rotor will cause motion inside this subunit, which will kind of make these wobble in such a way that it will snap the ADP and the phosphate back together, and it will come out as ATP.